Technical Steering Committee meeting for May 21st, 2020. We'll follow the agenda as was tagged in the TSE repo, which issue 868. Before we get started, does anybody have any announcements that they'd like to share? Okay, if there's no announcements, let's move on to the issues that were tagged for the agenda. The first one was regression 14.1.1 Windows, std out is sometimes empty. I think Mateo was the one who tagged that one, but he's not here today. So let's just take a quick look to see where we're at. Unless anybody else has more up-to-date info. I see a few comments saying that it can't be reproduced with 14.3. And is 14.3, I think that's likely because it was reverted. Okay, right, yeah, there's a comment, the revert was landed in blah, do we want to keep this open? So yeah, I think this is being kept open to track the fact that, you know, we reverted something that we wanted to get landed. Do we think we should leave this on the agenda or untag it? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I don't tag it unless it's still a specific question. I mean, the tagging was done 10 days ago, and it doesn't look like there's anything that really requires feedback outside of the GitHub process.
That's my take. So if nobody else objects, I'll untag it from the agenda and it can be put back on if there's another question or anything like that. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. Next one is source win replacement of unsupported versions, Windows exit runtime exit. So this is number 33108. And
this is the once again, this and the next issue are kind of the same
yep.
issue.
Just looking at the first one and the second one to see if there's the allow skipping of the supported platform check. There seems to be 2 approvals on that so far. And I guess it looks like that one is likely to land then.
I think didn't Bartos have an explicit -1 on that one? Am I mistaken?
Let me look in there.
I think it's a thing where it doesn't show the interface because someone requested his re-review or something. I might be mistaken. I got to check that out myself.
Yeah, I know. I see like Bezos you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, he seems to have approved it.
Oh, this got updated. Okay. Oh, yeah. Great. Okay. I'm sorry. This is different than the last time I looked. Definitely. Okay.
So
cool.
It looks like it's progressing and nothing for us to discuss, right?
Can you untag those perhaps? Because if the conflict is already resolved, then
Sorry, what were you
to discuss?
Sorry, what did you suggest we do?
Can you untag those if the conflict is already resolved on GitHub?
Yep. So I think
I untagged 33108.
Though I still see a one change requested even after refreshing several times.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. Bezos still has a -1 on that pull request.
Yeah.
Right, but there's 33176, which is the one that was opened as an alternate.
33176.
That one is the one that I looked at and had 2.
Yes.
2 approvals. So that one is the one I think will land.
Yeah. Okay. This is the one I was looking. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm slow today. Sorry. Yes, it's catching up.
So I think that like, unless there's some controversy over that one, it didn't seem like, you know, I think the Excelsior Cricks who opened the original seemed to say they're you know, that seemed okay to them as well.
Yeah. Nobody seems to be saying that it won't meet their needs. Both saw the issue at hand, but given the nature of what needs. And then
I think this just got worked out, but there's an old change requested on it. It doesn't look like there's anything.
well, there's the alternative too, which doesn't even have a change request. The alternative has 2 approvals and can land if it has a clean CI. So yeah.
Right. So I get the feeling that Bezos, yeah. That doesn't,
Yeah, why don't we just? I think we take this, untag these things, and people can retag them if they need to. If there's something still that needs to be talked about by us.
I agree.
So
Okay.
it looks like we may need to close the issue that has the objection and maybe ask Cicrix to look at the other one if they haven't, right? Because we're going to close their pull request in favor of this. Oh, here we go. They did comment on it.
Yeah, they did comment on the other one saying, hey, if this is the one that's favored, they're okay.
And
with it.
Mateus posted a comment saying he doesn't think Bartas approved the PR, but the link that he posted has Bartas approving it. So I'm not sure. I think I'm misunderstanding Mateus, but
Yeah, well, I was talking about the first one.
right, he did not approve the. Oh, I see. Time passed between the 2 comments. Yes, correct.
So it looks like we can just close the first one.
We can, or leave it. Yeah, we can, or I think so. Or leave it open until the other one lands. Either one is fine by me. We
Right,
probably didn't close aggressively enough. We probably should close it politely.
Right, and the 3304, I just put a comment that it looked like 33108 was likely to fix it. Do you want to leave that one open, or like I've removed the agenda tag?
I think we should leave them open and just kick them back to the community. People who are active in the PRs and the issues will close them or deal with them, or else request that they go back to the TSC.
I'm good with that. Anybody?
Ship it.
Okay, let's move on to the next one then. So the next one is process, throw exception on -- unhandled rejections equals default. Mateus, I think you've been working on that one.
Yes. So we finished creating the survey. It just needs to get merged. I'm going to do that after the meeting. And once it's merged, we need to forward it to the foundation. And I think we just need to decide for how long we want the survey to happen, how many answers are we looking for, and so that we can gather the results later to come to a decision on the default for unhandled rejections.
Do you have any suggestion in terms of time and number of responses?
Have we done any surveys before that we can use as a basis for that?
We have, but I can't remember what we did. We did one for the benchmarking working group. I mean, I think, you know, I'm sure we left it open for at least a couple weeks. and,
think that makes
tried to
sense.
promote during that time. So, my guess would be like a couple weeks, and then we can ask how many responses there've been. And, I don't have a good sense of like how many responses we might get on this one. Like, do we want thousands or hundreds or?
Yeah, I don't have a good sense either. But 2 weeks, I think, as a minimum, is a good number.
Okay. Just
Yeah, I
note
think
that
2
down.
weeks is good. And normally we should just try to advertise it as much as possible to get a lot of people filling it out. And for other surveys, we normally had a couple of thousand replies, and I would be surprised if we didn't manage that this time.
Matthias, if you reach out to Joe, I think he should be able to help you get that survey launched with the foundation. If you have any troubles with that, just let me know, and I can help out too.
Should I send Joe an email or open an issue somewhere?
I think here, let me look. I think there may even be a repo, OpenJS Foundation. Yeah, user feedback. So I would open an issue in here, which I've just pasted in the chat. The user feedback repo, that's what we moved from the Node project where we'd done some surveys before.
Cool.
And maybe
I do
just,
that.
at Joe, since I know he's the one who's looking after that right now. Okay, so moving on to the next issue, it is 32948, Bootstrap, include bootstrapped environment in built-in snapshot. I'm just looking at who tagged that.
James did, and
Okay.
I don't think he's here. I mean, I can obviously speak to it to some degree. I just don't know if I want to.
Okay. We could wait if you think it makes sense to have more people here too.
Well, I mean, obviously the people that should be there, if we want to have a in-depth discussion, would be me, James, and Joey. Just to give you an overview. So, I mean, Joey and I had concurring PRs open for a while, and while I strongly disagree with some of the decisions she made in her PR, and while I'm very unhappy with how the review process went there, I closed mine so that we could move forward in some way. And James indicated that he wanted to have a discussion at the TC level first, and that he was maybe willing to take over my previous PR because I'm not really interested in engaging in this kind of work this way. And I don't know what exactly James wants to have discussed here, to be honest. Probably should have asked him, but I also kind of assumed that he would be here.
Right. Well, I would say let's defer until he is then, unless you think we should dive into it.
I mean, it would be nice to get some feedback of other people who are not Joy or me, just generally. I mean, Joy put a lot of work into putting together a design document where the different choices that the two PRs are making are detailed, and I think I'm mostly okay with how that is being described there. It's just unfortunately, nobody besides the two of us has really weighed in there, and that kind of leaves us in a very deadlocked situation. Yeah.
Is it accurate to say that a valuable reviewer should probably be reasonably familiar with V8 and familiar with C++ to adequately review the pull requests, or does Joey's document kind of do a lot of lifting for you?
I think familiarity with C++ would be important. Yeah. V8 maybe not so much.
Okay, well, that's okay.
And I took a very brief look, just enough to know I needed to spend more time than I had at the time. But it's probably at least going to take a half an hour for somebody to read through and sort of grok
Yeah.
what's going on, if not longer. Just as a
It's going to take longer than that. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I figured. But yeah, so but it would be good if more of us did that.
It would be if like any of the TSC or other collaborators did. Yeah.
I mean, I read through the comments, but I don't feel competent to, weigh in on it. And I only read through the comments because I talked with Anna about this on a previous occasion, and yeah, and I decided to see if I could help, and I realized I'm gonna have to learn a few things before I really have a competent opinion on this. So I don't feel comfortable, weighing in on most of the issues in there.
Right. Would it like I understand the most efficient way is probably for people to read through and think about it. Does walking people, like, if we spent 20 minutes or a half an hour in one of the TSC meetings walking people through, does that help, or is that's still not going to give people enough knowledge to be able to comment if they haven't gone and read it?
I mean, it's not like, I don't think it would make sense to do that in the sense that we would walk through actual code in the PR, but we could have like lay out what the big points of disagreement are. I think we could explain what the different options are. Yeah,
because that might help to get feedback, right? If it's a little easier for people to come and listen and then have an opinion.
Yeah, sure. I mean, but yeah, it's I mean, if you want to understand what the different options are, then I mean, again, Joy put a lot of work into putting that design doc together, and like I said, I think it accurately describes the situation. So we would only be, explaining things that are explained in that doc already, and that people can take a look at whenever they want.
Right. Okay. So the ask is. Sorry, go ahead.
Discussing it in a TSC meeting would not, like, we can talk about it, but ideally that would mean that people have taken a look at that doc and have formed some kind of opinion, rather than like talking about everything again here and explaining the details.
Okay, I was just exploring different ways. So why don't we leave it on the agenda? Hopefully people will have a chance to look at it. And also if James had specific things he wanted to discuss, we can do that when he's here. That makes sense as next steps?
Yeah, and maybe we can get him and Joy both into the same room. And
right. Okay. So any more discussion on that one before we should move on? Okay, so let's move on to the next one. The next one is 503, approval to enable GitHub pages for Node add-on examples. That I should have taken off after the last meeting, so nothing to discuss on that one. The other one is audit Google account access. Again, that one, I don't think there's anything to discuss. Brian had put together a proposal. I guess, our only question is, do we leave it on the agenda assuming it'll happen, or take it off the agenda assuming it'll happen, or do we leave it on the agenda as a reminder that we make sure it happens? Anybody have any strong feelings? No, okay, well, I'll just leave it on the agenda then. And I added a comment to Brian just saying, it looks like everybody said looks good. Let's move on to the next step. So that takes us to the end of the tagged issues in terms of the strategic initiatives. There weren't any updates except for the startup time, which is the one we've discussed a little bit. You know, and Joey has a few comments there. I think relating a bit what Anna was talking about, that there were two issues. One was closed, but there's really could still use some review of that document to help weigh in on the trade-offs. Also a few generic points that, you know, this is a case where, you know, maybe if we'd had some other kinds of processes, we might have avoided duplicate efforts. So, you know, more ways to communicate about active efforts might have helped. And that, you know, it highlights kind of that in some areas we could use more reviewers for certain subsystems instead of necessarily going to the whole TSC suggestion along the, you know, like team and code owners kind of structure might help for that. And that maybe when starting a substantial amount of work, a design doc to seek high-level agreement of, you know, and sort of get that broad agreement of the direction up front might help. I don't know if anybody had any thoughts or comments or things for us to discuss on that one. I'd probably suggest that, you know, unless anybody has some strong ideas right now, we wait and make sure to discuss them in a meeting that Joey can make. Okay, so I think we're at the end of our agenda then. So I will stop the live stream if everybody can just hang on for a few minutes.